Welcome to the summit. You are the web of life. And I can now introduce you to Peter Dziuban. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Susan. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you are welcome. And you are an author and also a life coach. And you focus on consciousness, truth, reality. And we're going to be talking about your book, Consciousness is All. And you have it right there to show.
Yes, I do. Here we go. I'll mention, it was recently revised at the end of last year, the fourth edition. And the way to tell the revised edition is this little purple banner up on the corner on the top that says fourth revised edition. But the older editions, which you still see on Amazon and things like that, do not have that up in the corner. So this is the newest one.
Yeah, and it is an amazing book that really goes into depth. It really changed your perspective of everything. And you also have another book, more recent book, Simply Notice.
Yes.
But we'll focus on the consciousness is all. And
Okay.
what I really like about the book and your message is that consciousness is all, and that's basically it, right? Like that's what you are, that's what I am, that's what everything is, the whole world, life, the web of life, you could say, is made of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that consciousness is also very alive. It's the aliveness we actually are, because just the
Yes.
body and mind in itself is just a thing in a way, right? Whereas with consciousness, it's alive.
Yes. And the experience, the conscious experiencing of aliveness is what brings it right here and now as a living fact and takes it out of the realm of theory or ideas or concepts. Because ideas and theories, how wonderful and clear and accurate they might be, they're not alive. They're not self-aware themselves. No idea is aware by itself. Only consciousness or life is aware by itself. So it's like, as we say, that's the juice. That's where it's at, is the actual conscious experiencing of aliveness.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what's actually alive. Everything else other than consciousness is just a thing in a way. Is kind of dead.
Yes, yes, it's in, and it's sometimes it's said it's in the realm of what we might call effect, and not. Sometimes you hear the word cause with capital C or source or whatever, and as you get even deeper into this, you're in the timeless where there's not even cause and effect, yet there's still life, being, self-aware, but at that point it's not describable really. So
Yeah, so it's like consciousness, or we could also call it presence. It's called
absolutely.
awareness. It's called God. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
universe, or whatever we call it. But that's what permeates. That's actually who we are, or what we are.
Yes, yes, and this just comes up as you're talking, Susan. For the remainder of our talk, and for those who are watching, let's be alert to, because there's a lot of nice ideas and words being exchanged here, which is beautiful, but let's be alert to that which is, as they say, underlying the words or prior to the arising of the words. And no matter if they're even absolutely right on accurate, they're still not it. And if we're just silent right now for a moment, no words, no thought, no effort, but consciousness or awareness is still right here. And it's not something that Peter personally or Susan personally is making be present, causing to be present. And it is out of this that the words and so on, describing it, arise from this. But this is present, ever present. Everyone, we all know all the words: presence, beingness, sometimes no mind, all the terms. But what's the essence of it is that it's, you could say, well, how do I know? How can there be a certainty that this is here, that this is real? And it's the aliveness that is being that. And one thing that happens sometimes is, especially for people who might be a little bit relatively new to this, and you don't know who's going to be watching this video. Someone maybe just happens on it on the internet. Oh, that looks interesting. And here we are jumping right into the deep water. But when there's no thought, as we were saying just a moment ago, this is still consciously alive, and it's very subtle to the mind, seemingly, quiet, gentle, calm, yet ever present. It's always sort of on, aliving. And it's a felt experience, but it's not emotional. It never varies. Emotions can be like a roller coaster ride, happy, sad, all over the place. Yet this is always sane, and yet it's ever fresh too. It doesn't get stale, and it's always present tense. See, for example, and just so this isn't a theory or my idea, right where you are, or as a viewer, listener, starting or being alive as this alive presence, can it not be present and alive? Can it be made to go away?
No,
yeah, you can see for yourself. You see, this is like self-checking, maybe we could say, or so that because I don't want anyone to have to take my word for this and just, oh, well, this guy's written a book, so I guess he knows what he's talking about. Shouldn't be anything like that at all. It should come from within oneself, because it is oneself. And to get back to what I was leading up to, is that this presence itself is not a thought. It's not the same. It's that which is aware of the thoughts. And because we think so much, and we have to during the day, we can tend to identify with the thinker as the thinker of thoughts. And I, as this thinker, know something about aliveness. I'm getting it now. I know about it. Aliveness is what I now know about. Actually, we can even let that go too, because those you don't want to identify there as the thinker about aliveness, even thinking accurately, because it's the aliveness that is being the real you without any thought process.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like when you wake up in the morning, and it's like before you start thinking about who you are and what you're going to do, and there's just aliveness. In a way, it's very neutral.
Yes, I know how you mean, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't have an agenda other than to be. It doesn't think ahead, it doesn't plan, it just is. And from its perspective, and to the mind, to the thinking mind, which is always dealing in forms and doing and accomplishing, that might sound like the most boring thing there is. But this is what's permanent, changeless, real. And again, you can see, by the way, that, and by the way, this also is we might say the universal with the capital U, the one with the capital O, or the self with the capital S, life itself with the capital L, because its presence, again, is not something that Susan is personally making be present, or that Peter or any other body is doing. It is the one that is being this presence. And the more one, our tendency because of conditioning is to start and identify ourselves as one body and as a person, totally natural in our everyday scene. And I, this person, am finding out about the universal and gradually making my way to the universal. And what becomes clearer and clearer is that actually it's the universal that should be the starting point, not the personal, who's then becoming more universal. It's start directly as the universal, because that's what it is doing. It's not trying to reach itself, and it's the one being conscious. It's the one being alive. It's the one being infallibly, certainly present, unstoppably so. And the more it's coming from there, then it is the universal that sort of ends up running the life of what appears as this body. And your body doesn't go away. Your friends or loved ones and business associates don't go away. But what goes away is all that internal worry about little me, little personal me. That just evaporates because it really was never present or genuine in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, because even like thoughts and emotions, them in themselves are not alive, right?
No. Yeah.
That's just like things, you could say.
Right. Concepts sometimes you hear it used as well. Yeah. This just comes up too while we're in this sort of territory. There's a tendency, because we are so influenced by the evidence of our physical senses of sight, visual sense, feeling, tactile sense of touch or temperature or weight, heaviness of things, sound as well, and then to a lesser extent, smell and taste. But because of that, and all of that is always going on finitely, locally, in a certain area, wherever the body tends to be. And so we tend to say, if I were to say to you or to any listener, from where are you now participating, either talking or viewing this video discussion? From where are you participating in this? And because of the sensory stuff, there's naturally a tendency to think in terms of geography. Well, I'm in Arizona. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. I'm in Europe. I'm in central United States, wherever it might be. And nothing wrong with that. But now coming back to that which is actually conscious and present and alive. By the way, this keeps dinging at me, so I'm going to say it. For our purposes, my purposes, and in the book, Consciousness is All, the word consciousness and awareness are treated as exact synonyms. Don't make a distinction. I know in lots of spiritual writing, there's big distinctions made that way. And in medical, neurological things and all that, they make distinctions in that regard. But if you come from the other direction, so to speak, from the universal, where there's only one stuff present, alive, functioning, one thing going on, it doesn't make those distinctions. So why not have, life with the capital L, self, love, divinity, consciousness, awareness, being, presence. They're all just silly little names that we come up with for the same, what is the same one stuff. So just to clear that up. Now, to get back to what I was saying, from where are you participating in this from? Coming back to this aliveness, this conscious aliveness, ever present. Notice how certain it is in its being present. We're not talking about your thinking mind's doubts that might come up or thoughts about it. We're talking about the actual stuff itself.
Yeah.
It's sort of, as they say, it's sort of self-evident. The self, the capital S, and it's aware that it's aware. And the one that's aware right now is that very self of the, this whole conversation. But so one could say when we leave the limited thinking mind out of it, which is where the doubts are, and there's nothing wrong with that. Skepticism is very healthy, as they say, and having doubts, you can't just sweep them under the rug. You've got to deal with them. But this enables one to deal with them very effectively. Just switching, well, what's the premise here? Whose life is this really? Oh, it's life's life. It's conscious aliveness's life. So what is true of it is what's got to be sort of the starting point. And it is, first of all, the only one really participating in this discussion. It's sort of like life talking to itself about itself right now. And when we leave the personalities and the bodies and the persons out of it, and it's just the universal. And it is, another name for it is really certainty, we could say. It's like a state of alive certainty. Because doubt only happens where there's thought or belief. And this is not in the realm of thought. It's prior to that. Plays by different rules, so to speak.
Yeah.
So certainty isn't what you have. It's literally what you are, what is being you as this universal life, which is itself.
Yeah. And the universal life is what is the only thing there is. So
That's right.
That's why there is no me here and then I can at some point in my life become this universal mind or merge with it. No, I am it.
Right. Yes, and that's a beautiful point. And just think, if you were, and we're taught, unfortunately, so often to do the other, just because we don't know, it's nobody's fault, but there just isn't that clarity or that awareness. And if you're, just think of how futile it is, what a waste. If you're always already there, but you're listening to this imaginary state of thinking, you're believing that there's this other you that's got to get there. And yet the whole time you're always already there. What a complete waste it is to try to get to where you're already being. And you can actually never pull it off.
Yeah.
You can't arrive because you never left.
Yeah.
And it's always better to, I found, to always, instead of making it about, like even the word you, which we use a lot, can be a little tricky because that often refers to personal me. In our everyday life, it certainly does most of the time. And yet it's really, when I said you can't arrive because you never left, that's really as if the self were saying that about itself. And you go, or the I am too, the one I am. And from that perspective, go, of course. What else how could the I am self, the one omnipresent being, get to where it's already everywhere, since its own presence is already all there is? How can it arrive at itself? It's impossible.
Yeah.
And this doesn't mean, so, then the thinking mind will come in and get worried maybe, and it'll say, well, so what's going to happen? If you're already there, it's done. Your life is over, it's going to be boring then. No. Aliveness, while it's always already at itself, certain, effortless, by the way, effortless, satisfied, complete, whole, not doing anything out of a state of dis-ease or dissatisfaction, but just completeness and ease. In the spiritual realm, everything is already perfect and accomplished. That's me, capital M, done. Yet, there still appears to be unfoldment. And experience still goes on in the everyday world, but it's just seen and lived or experienced from an entirely different point. Now there isn't that constant struggle of trying to get somewhere. If I've got to do this, I've got to da-da-da, or else I'm not going to be da-da-da, all those things that the mind says. It's like, oh no, already there. I'm not playing that game anymore. Don't have to, it was never real anyway. So yes, experience happens. I do this during the day, I do that during the day, but with that inner peace and ease and satisfaction, already as there as can be.
Yeah. And that is invisible, right? That's why.
Yes.
And you can't really grasp it. And so it's like we forget about it all the time, and we overlook it maybe for that reason, because it's so not definable. Yeah, you can't.
Oh, sure. And we're so seemingly accustomed to being driven by the visible. That seems to be the dominant of the five physical senses, is the visual or the visible, and we get caught up in that. I think maybe had you said when we were emailing before that you had seen a video about, maybe this is what you were referring to, about because it's a nice little thing to know or be aware of or do that it involves the invisible, and it can be extremely helpful and practical in everyday living. Did you see that somewhere? There's a short video on the internet that talks about that. Or do we have time to do a little demonstration of that right now?
Oh, to show the video, or?
No. We can walk through the steps again right now. It only takes just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
If that work, okay, all right. Again, just so this isn't my theory or my words, right where I'll say you as the participator in this video, wherever the body might appear to be located, there's a distinct aliveness, presence awareness, beingness, and notice that one of the things you notice, in addition to its being alive and being ever present, it's not optically visible, or it's not a visual thing. Like if you were to say, if I were to say, are you experiencing aliveness? Yes. What color is it?
Yeah, that's no color.
Say, right? Or how big is it? What size? Is it like a box, or is it spherical? Or you can't go there because it's invisible, and it doesn't have any, not only it's not physically, visually, optically visible, it's not even mentally visible as a concept, really. So we're getting behind everything here. But okay, so now very softly, just being very still for a moment, just experiencing, just letting aliveness alive in place in its ever presence. It's the star of this show here. Okay. Not moving. Yet aliving, not seeable. Now, let out of this alive, aware self, let the word I be said very silently within yourself, not aloud, just very silently and softly. Let the word I be said a couple of times, and do it so carefully, sort of attentively, so that there's the awareness that this whatever is saying I it's arising out of this ever-present aliveness or consciousness.
Yeah.
Stay until you get it. You get it. It's so that's a real thing, and it's not the word I that's important. It's really tuning into being at where this I voice is coming from. And that is, prior to any thought arising, it's like an openness. It's like an infinite potential before any thought comes up within it. But that is you, which is really self, capital S, being itself. And as this is the real you, because you just said I as this invisibility. By the way, I is invisible too. You kind of get a thought sense of it when you're saying it silently within yourself. But really, I is invisible. And that means you are invisible. Life, the life that, capital L, that is you. It's aliveness that is you, is invisible.
Yeah. And that aliveness is what runs the whole show.
That's right. It's being everything.
Yeah.
Now, and notice again, this is where it's going to get interesting. Okay, so what you are, and this is a bit of a reorientation, admittedly, in terms of what one is, but this alive invisibility, which you are, in one way though, think about it. It's really cool to be invisible, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you let that in, at first it's like, whoa, this is different. But then if you, gosh, invisible, how cool is that? And what does that mean? And it has all the answers. But notice again how while your invisibility is alive, it's always ever presently alive, and it's not really moving. It's an alive stillness. It's beingness. It's not movement like this. It's being. It's alive. It's as if it were aliving in place.
Yeah.
It's a placeless place, as they say. Okay, so now, starting here, which is as the self you are, capital S, being this, now take one of your hands, and everybody watching, if you'd like to, please join in and try this. Take a hand and move it very slowly back and forth in front of the face. But you stay with invisibility and don't let attention go to the visible movement.
Yeah, it's like it's the hand is moving in you, like you.
Exactly. And it takes a little getting used to, but very soon it's like, oh yeah, got it. And you can notice other types of movement, like the movement of sound with these words that are being spoken right now. And they are moving. One is flowing into another, yet the entire time, you as alive invisibility, you're not getting stale, you're not being boring because you're not moving, because every moment you're freshly alive, freshly alive, freshly alive. This aliveness it doesn't deal in past and future. Those are only thoughts, and it's not in the realm of thought. So anything that tries to say boring, sameness is the mind, not aliveness, not you. You're not saying that, even though we sometimes accept it. But so during the day, when the body has to be out at its workplace or family doing things, it's, we might spend time in the morning meditating, nice and quiet, got our space, same thing in the evening or whenever we can. And that's wonderful. But you get out in the world and you find, oh, I feel so separate now. I feel so cut off. I feel lost. I've lost it. And this is your like express ticket back to you, real you, is just come back to your ever-present, alive invisibility. And what happens is the mind gets seduced, hypnotized, frankly, let's be blunt, by the visible movement. And it thinks if we're identified with the body exclusively, the body's always moving. And if I say I'm limited to being the body, then I'm moving. But if I'm presence awareness, infinite invisibility, then, oh, I'm not moving. It's like, if you think of awareness, or you could say invisibility, you hear this sometimes, as space. Make it analogous with space. All the movement is going on within the things, among the things within the space, but the space itself never moves. All the form that appears to move. And so you are this spacious, alive invisibility. This can't be other than ever present. And when there's like a sort of yes, that's home. This is home, like with the capital H. This is where you live. No matter where the body, whether it appears to be in the physical structure home, the workplace, whatever, at the beach, you're home. Home is what you are, and that's life, all-inclusive consciousness being itself, really, is home. But that's you, the only kind of you there is. And that's how to, again, I found it very practical when the body has to be out and about doing things, and you feel that sort of, the world's really coming in on you, or, there's that feeling of separation, and it's like, oh yeah, right, here it is. So.
Yeah. So you're basically everything, because you are the space where everything happens, where the body happens, where the mind with its stories and thoughts happens, where
yes.
the whole emotional show happens, and basically all energy, right? All this energy. Yeah. So you're the space where it all happens, where all the movement happens. Yeah.
Yes. And as one goes deeper with this, we get that's an excellent example and analogy, and I use it all the time myself too. And yet there's another depth to it where it actually had what you are, being infinite, actually has no dimension, no physical length, no physical width, height, anything. You're undimensional. So you're really even beyond spatialness. Space appears in consciousness, the illusion of physical space, we'll put it that way. The sensory dream of physical space and time appears in consciousness. Consciousness itself, or awareness, capital C, capital A, is not surrounded by space.
And also in your book, you mentioned that it's love. Can you
Yes.
talk about that?
Yeah. because it's one. That's the main best way to put it. It's because itself is all. It's not, this might sound funny, it's not loving to another because it doesn't have another. It's one. But it's a state of purity. It's a state of innocence. It's a state of utter openness and ease and harmony. And again, the best way to say it is just oneness. No otherness whatsoever. No me here, you over there. And the real definition of love I cannot give, no matter how good my description of words, but it has to be love itself, being consciously present and alive there as you, telling you what it is, experientially. And it will, if you ask it. And knowing that you are it too. It's being you, right there where you are. You don't have to beg it or plead with it because it's your very self.
Yeah.
And it's not personal in any way. God is no respecter of persons, as they say, because God is not a person and God is all, you could say. Consciousness is not a person. It's not a body, so it's not a person. It's one totality.
Yeah. And that's amazing that we are that you are that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And escape choicelessly, as they say. Inescapable.
Yeah, so it's just identifying this body mind. It makes you so small, and it's not even real, right? Because the body mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always changing. There's no permanence, no timelessness, no changelessness. And if you're going to say something is, real or true, and I know that can get a lot of debate can come in when those type of words that come up, but it's that which never changes. It's got to be the same, always. If it's variable, then how could it? Which of these variations is the real one? You could say. But in consciousness is all. There's a definition in one of the chapters. Just came very simple, practical. Is only that which is real has to be that which really is. Has to really genuinely be. Because if something is not being, if it is not present, then it doesn't exist. So how could it be that which is real? Only that which really is can be that which is real. And thinking cannot know what that is, because is present tense only. It's not was and not will be. It's is. And thinking is always in time. Talking about was or will be. So it's the way to quote unquote know it, reality, is it's your very being prior to thoughts about it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much, Peter.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you too. That was delightful, Susan.
Yeah. And
really, you're really only thanking yourself. That's the only one to whom or within which this whole thing is taking place, is the very awareness aware right there, so to speak. Got to say it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and if people want to get in touch with you, what's your website?
Same as the book, consciousnessisall.com. And there's a lot of free short little audio excerpts on each of the pages. There's a lot of free writings there. There are, I think, 5 chapters, free chapters from both of the books on the read page, and you know, a bunch of other things. Fun place to poke around if you want.
Yeah. Great. And then you also do some life coaching one-on-one.
Yes, correct. Called those living room workshops, and it's frankly kind of like what we're doing right now. The only thing is we actually most of the time do not use the video. We only use, it'll be a phone call or through the internet, but only using the audio portion, only because without the visual, it takes you more into, you know, even a little deeper into the invisible. And sometimes that's more appropriate. You know, for something like this, obviously, it's very helpful to have the visual. But anyway, just so people are aware of that. So.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. I really liked the whole journey you also took me on, and yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you too. Again, thanks for the opportunity. It was very nice, and thanks to all your friends, viewers, for watching as well.
Yeah, thank you.